I'm here today on like such a special occasion. I want to acknowledge lots of folks, but most of all, first of all, my staff and crew who put everything together today, who flipped this house after a record number of shows in the last couple of weeks, including 2 performances of the New Bedford Symphony Orchestra's Holiday Pops yesterday. So they were here late into the night and early this morning. But also I want to acknowledge Greg Morton from Morton's Fork Catering, who is delivering this morning's breakfast. Okay, so without further ado, I think we can get things started. I'm going to introduce Mr. Martin Benz, who is the chair of the Human Relations Commission.
It's a great honor to welcome everyone today to the Zeiterion Theater to celebrate Human Rights Day in New Bedford. We thank the Z for offering this unique space. And we take it for granted often. Right here, we often enjoy one of our basic human rights, the freedom of expression. Right here at the Z, we enjoy all kinds of music, dance, drama, irreverent comedy, and even sometimes very serious talks, like the one today. Human rights were recognized 74 years ago by 48 countries on December 10th, 1948. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights is now universally recognized, if not universally observed. We often take our rights for granted. Our rights to freedom of assembly, freedom of expression, freedom to be governed by the consent of the people, freedom of thought and worship, rights before the law, rights to privacy, rights to make one's own life's decisions, rights to marry the person we love, right to education, right to work, right to food, shelter, and safety, and security. All these and more are in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, regardless of race, color, age, language, national origin, ethnicity, social status, abilities, gender, or persuasion. The Human Relations Commission works to promote these rights for all in this city. Soon, we hope, will be more appropriately called the Human Rights Commission. All these rights are fragile. We see horrific losses of life in the Ukraine, the abuse of women in Iran, ethnically motivated killings in Myanmar, India, and China. Human rights are fragile and can be lost at any moment, sadly, even in this country. I worked for the United Nations for 30 years, with 15 of those years in peacekeeping helping countries reestablish their human rights and self-government in places like the Democratic Republic of Congo, Eritrea, Ethiopia, and Afghanistan. Progress made years ago is reversed so easily again and again, as we have seen so recently in all those places where I served. We have to remain vigilant. Today, we honor people in this city who have dedicated their lives to human rights and dignity. We recognize some today, but there are many residents in this city who have been working quietly, devotedly in the background. One such person is Dr. Reverend Susan Lee, who is president of the U.S. Women's Caucus to the United Nations, dedicated to ensuring women's rights are not forgotten in the countries who signed the Declaration of Human Rights, including our own. So Susan, would you please stand up? Because she has a flyer at every table and I think you should take a look at. And we hope we have occasion in the future to hear more of your work on women's rights. So one day we'll have to have you up on this podium, God willing. There are many more of you here, recognized and unrecognized, who work for human rights and social justice and dignity for all. We applaud you, and may I applaud you all now. We applaud you for being here and for continuing your work, vigilantly assuring human rights are remembered and cherished in this city, in this state, and in this country Please circle December 10th on your calendars and find ways of remembering human rights in your activities on this day and every day. We have a very interesting program, and to start, I would honor to introduce the Mayor of New Bedford, Mr. Jon Mitchell. Mayor Mitchell, you're welcome.
All right, thanks, Martin. Good morning, everybody. Great to see everybody out here. I walked in from the cold, as all of you did, and I looked around and I said, wow, this is pretty good. Right up on stage, and but even more importantly, back in business. We're really celebrating Human Rights Day as we should, right? In an august place with people who have been toiling and doing the great work that all of you have been doing over so many years. And now, again, it's just another sign of things getting back to normal. We're not totally normal yet, but we're getting there. So it's really exciting, and it's really exciting to be here in the holiday season with to note some really great work. I want to just before I begin too, I just want to acknowledge some of the folks here who have all of whom have committed themselves one way or the other, but I did want to just acknowledge Police Chief Paul Oliveira, Superintendent Anderson, Health Director Damone Chaplin, looking around Shane Burgo, at-large City Council. I know Chris Hendricks was here as well, and Mike Jackman from Congressman Keating's office. I'm just sort of scanning the room. I want to make sure I don't miss anybody. But most of all, I want to thank Marcy Pina Christian and Martin Bentz for all of their great work throughout the year. Marcy, I mean, you just do so much for the city in so many capacities, from the work you do through the commission, and we'll call it the Human Rights Commission. I know it's not official yet, but let's call it the Human Rights Commission. It's almost official yet. Shane Burgo and the rest of the City Council are working on that. I'm not putting you on the spot. I know you support it. But the work of putting together the MLK breakfast every year, and even handing out hot chocolate at our Christmas tree lighting the other night, which she did so skillfully. She did so skillfully the other night, she ran out of hot chocolate. So, she's doing it all. But I want to thank all the members of the commission for all of your work. It's easy in your capacity merely to go through the motions, right? It's easy just to say, well, we're on a city commission, and look, we have some legal authority. We don't have all of the authority that we would like to have. We care about this stuff, but especially now with changes in local media, are people noticing? And you guys continue all the time to elevate those who are overlooked in our society generally, in our city, and you do it so well and do it with such respect. You command such respect. So I really want to commend you for all of your work. I want to welcome Marion Albert from the Lawyers Committee on Civil Rights up in Boston for being here today. The great work that your organization does across New England is really big, and it's very meaningful to us even here in New Bedford. I just want to say too that the work that we're celebrating today, again, isn't done by people who are seeking the spotlight. As Martin alluded to, it's not for acclaim. It's for really motivated out of a sense of justice and a sense of fairness. And that's really, to my mind, really speaks to the city's core values. New Bedford has long prided itself on a place that embraces others, that embraces differences, that exalts the dignity of each individual. And so know that the work that you do and the people that you honor today are really valued by not just me in the corner office, but the city more generally. And so I really want to express my appreciation to you for that. I also want to just say, too, that those whom you've honored today or are honoring today richly deserve their distinction, and those distinctions really reflect those core values. Xavier Mojica, Mercy Meals, and Justina Perry, all of them have done such great work over many years. I don't know if I saw Justina here. I want to tell her, just, oh, there you are, right? I just saw you right over there. Yeah, I was wearing my Buy Black and Be shirt in New York over Thanksgiving, and people were like, hey, what's that about? Well, let me tell you. So that was kind of a cool moment right out in front of like the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So you're doing great and very necessary work. Xavier, you're doing wonderful work over at Global, and you should be very proud of what you've achieved there. And the folks who work at Mercy Mills, just, you see the difference every day in people's lives that you make. So I want to congratulate all of you for the acclaim you so richly deserve. And I want to just, again, thank, I don't want to sound like a broken record in my appreciation for you guys, but I really do appreciate what the commission does, because it's really, it keeps us all grounded. It keeps us focused on our core values, and we're a stronger city for it. So I want to thank all of you. I'm going to have to skip out on breakfast, but know that I am certainly with you here in spirit. Thanks, everybody.
Good morning. I am Marcy Pina Christian, the Executive Director for the Human Relations Commission, and I extend a warm welcome to all of you. Please continue with your breakfast. The program will resume very shortly so that you can get your Monday back. I would be remiss if I didn't ask for a moment of silent meditation. This picture over here, the pictures that you see around the room are pictures of the work that goes on in this community, and many of them are past awardees. And one of our awardees last year is no longer with us, Peter Muse, and so I would ask for a moment of silent meditation in his memory. Thank you, and please help yourself to some more, because the caterer will be breaking it down shortly. And I want to make sure everybody did get their breakfast. Is there anyone that didn't? Some of you came in late. Okay, Counselor, I see you. I see.
We all have to be treated with fairness, with dignity and respect. And that, to me, is the key line, is when we respect each other and we treat each other with dignity. Even if we have differences of our experience, our life, our lifestyle, we can always treat each other with dignity and respect. That's critical. And now, Marcy and I are going to go over some of the things that we've actually accomplished in this city since we last met with COVID. It was a hiatus of about 2 years, 3 years almost, of not being able to meet in person. And so we're so grateful to be draw to your attention all the things that have happened in those few years. Marcy?
2019 to 2021, the Black Lives Matter movement was happening nationally, and it also was very active here in New Bedford.
Police reform was initiated through this Black Lives Matter movement.
The mayor put together a commission on police reform. We had a seat at the table, and a diverse group of individuals from the community came together, and we had very heated conversations at times, but recommendations did come forth and some changes were made.
And because of this dialogue, we actually were able to pass a police reform bill in Massachusetts as a first step. It's not everything that some people wanted, but it is a good first step, and we keep that dialogue going.
The HRC conducted a policing survey in multiple languages to get a sense for how the community felt about our police force, and the results were very encouraging. Most wanted more trust, but they indicated a desire to work with our law enforcement.
And the New Bedford Police Department representative is now part of the New Bedford Human Relations Commission. I want to recognize Lieutenant Carolla, who's with Chief Oliveira right here. Thank you. And one of those initiatives I'm going to steal the stand, is a Citizens Police Academy, and I've got my badge right here. Great.
COVID caused the whole world to come to a halt. What COVID also did was bring to light the racial disparities in health and systemic racism. And it became hot topics of conversation throughout the city and still is. Equity became the hot topic, and the health department in the city took the lead on equity trainings, which are still going on. Many of us in the room are part of those ongoing trainings, and those meetings will, policy change will come, is the hope, as a result of that.
Also, during this time, the YWCA hosted community conversations around cultural bias and discussed reading lists of books that were particularly eye-opening on racial equity. And the community worked hard. People who joined in those discussions were working hard to come together, striving to understand and break the cycle of racism.
This is the first time in my adult life that I have witnessed the community really working so hard to understand the complications of systemic racism. Many departments are now have land acknowledgement statements, which we have never seen before, and people are really trying to break the cycle.
We also were able to work as the Human Relations Commission with the New Bedford Department of Education, and Superintendent Thomas Anderson is with us today. We appreciate his participation, but also their openness to work on including discussion in the curriculum on racial equity and on the Holocaust, making these things that they would never be forgotten within our school system. And we appreciate and applaud you for that. Thank you.
And on that note, our superintendent was here at our first human rights event, and he has been here at all of them. And that speaks volumes because it says what your commitment is. So we are happy to have you here.
You can do this one.
Equity trainings are also happening with department heads in the city of New Bedford, and it's been, Damone is in those trainings, I'm in those trainings, and it's been very powerful. You know, people are speaking their truth, and the hope is that we can take this information and work with our community partners as well to be the best that we can be in this city.
And in this time, also, it came out that the community stepped up on vaccines awareness, getting the health awareness out. Those vaccine clinics were extremely important throughout the city. Everybody was involved in that. And we had extra committees on trying to get underserved populations access to vaccines and to health, and that work is still ongoing.
It was a tremendous effort, even when, in thinking about our fish houses and the injustices that were happening there, our health department was quick to meet, to investigate, shall I say, what was going on and make sure that they were given the PPE equipment. And we went into, it was very deliberate, the strategies. We used mapping, we used census tracking to make sure that the vaccine was given to the people that needed it the most.
Also, we've made a conscious effort for access through language. Community partners like OBVD pushed for Cape Verdean Creole as also recognized within the system here. And other community organizations saw a need to include Quiche as a way of access to the community so that they could also understand what is available within this community.
Environmental justice is now prioritized with the Biden administration. State offices are working locally in this city with community partners to establish an environmental justice commission.
And there's also a group now in the city, they're called the Home Group, that is working on new community collaborating on housing and needs for the poor and the homeless.
Offshore wind, OBVD has taken the lead on that, BCC, and others working on providing training for underserved populations, free training to reduce economic disparities and the cycle of poverty.
This community also stepped up when we heard that there were Afghan refugees who needed a place to stay. We had challenges in trying to find places with adequate rent that the landlords would recognize, but we were managed to bring in 9 families, and they're thriving. They all have jobs, and they're doing it great, and they're all at school. The kids are at school. It's a wonderful community effort to bring in and welcome the Afghan refugees to the city.
The New Bedford HRC partnered with other concerned citizens in May on a walk in solidarity for Ukraine and against the horrific abuses of human rights there, which is still ongoing, as we all know.
And to circle back to the police department, the HRC and the New Bedford Police Department with Lieutenant Carolla are taking immediate steps when faced with hate crimes, human rights abuses, and incidents of discrimination in New Bedford. These hate crimes and incidents, hate incidents and anti-Semitism are thankfully low in New Bedford, but we are always vigilant, and we appreciate the support of the whole community to keep their eyes and ears open and let us know if there's anything that needs to be addressed.
And I must share with you an example of that. Our historic United House of Prayer for All People, not that long ago, we received a call of defacement of the property. The lions, which are in the front of the church, red paint was poured all over the lions and other parts of the church. Unfortunately, it was very disheartening because on the day that occurred, a new pastor for that church just came into town. And I remember thinking how disheartening that must be for someone, this pastor, coming from the South, where folks at a prayer meeting in Charleston were killed. What did he feel coming into New Bedford? And that is what he faced. It hurt our hearts. We, the Human Rights Commission, immediately, we called the police. The police were quick to investigate. We sent a letter to the pastor, and I want you to know that that pastor is here this morning. Pastor McLaughlin, would you please stand? Please stand, sir. I want you to know, and I think you can get a sense of it, we are a loving community. I've lived in this community my whole life. I have never known of a church being defaced like that, and it hurt my heart so much to know that that happened here. But I want you to know, and I've heard about you, I know that you want to work with this community. I know you've got a lot of skills and resources that you want to bring. So this room represents our community, and you have a community that wants to get behind and support you. And if ever the ugly face of racism and hate shows up at your church, please call us. Please call us. We welcome you here. We welcome you.
Very welcome.
So we say all of this, we acknowledge the work that has been done, and we celebrate the victories won. We have learned as a community through all of what we've gone through that we are better working collaboratively. We can get so much more done, and we will continue to do that. The purpose of the awards today is just that, to acknowledge the work and then get back at the work. The work goes on and the cause endures. Our hopes for a better city and world will never end. Advocacy works. We have a new set of, and let's talk about Massachusetts, y'all. Let's talk about Massachusetts. Massachusetts, the eyes of the country will be on us with our first female governor and openly gay, a black attorney general, and there will soon be a new sheriff in town. And I have to say, that is the result of the advocacy of a lot of groups in this room, and you know who you are. Letters that were written, exposures that came out about injustices that were happening behind those bars. So advocacy works.
Well, that's just a brief summary of some of the things. I'm sure there's been a lot more going on behind the scenes, but we did want to highlight all the work that New Bedford does and to welcome us all together. At this moment, it is my great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker. Miriam Albert earned her BA from Loyola Marymount University and her JD from City University of New York School of Law, where she was an editor of the CUNY Law Review. She also served as a student advocate for CUNY's human rights and gender justice clinics around the issues of violence against women on behalf of Afro-Colombian communities in Colombia. Miriam is a native Spanish speaker, of course. Miriam joined the Lawyers for Civil Rights, LCR, as a staff attorney this year in 2022. Prior to joining LCR, Miriam represented employees in wage theft, discrimination cases in state and federal courts. Miriam represented clients from across a wide range of civil rights cases, including employment, education, police misconduct, and immigration. Miriam is not shy on taking on big cases. Miriam is the lead attorney representing the Spanish-speaking immigrants from Venezuela who were mistreated by the governors of Texas and Florida. Massachusetts, as we all know, is a sanctuary state, and we know how to welcome people in distress. We have done it time and time again throughout history, especially in this city. We are proud of Miriam and Lawyers for Civil Rights. We are grateful she is with us today. Please welcome Miriam Albert.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I am delighted to be here. It is such an honor to participate in New Bedford's annual Human Rights Day. My name is Miriam Albert, and I am a staff attorney at Lawyers for Civil Rights. Just a little background on Lawyers for Civil Rights. Lawyers for Civil Rights works with communities of color and immigrants to fight discrimination and foster equity through creative and courageous legal advocacy, education, and economic empowerment. In partnership with law firms and community partners, we provide free, life-changing legal support to individuals and families in immigrant communities. Our organization was founded in the 1970s during the Civil Rights era at the behest of President John F. Kennedy to address racial discrimination. Lawyers for Civil Rights became the first of 8 independently funded and governed local affiliates of the Washington, D.C.-based Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights under law. Lawyers for Civil Rights has now been in Boston for over 50 years, and for those past decades, we have harnessed the resources and the talent of Boston's leading law firms to secure and protect the civil rights of Massachusetts residents. Lawyers for Civil Rights continues this legacy by adding new projects and initiatives to respond to the changing face of discrimination. We have consistently worked to redefine what it means to live and participate in our society regardless of race, national origin, gender, or zip code. We recognize that discrimination takes many forms. Factors such as race, national origin, ethnicity, sex, religion, immigration status, gender identity, and sexual orientation can overlap and intersect with one another. For immigrant rights in particular, Lawyers for Civil Rights understands that there is a connective tissue between what happens at the border and what happens in our communities in Boston and in Massachusetts. That is real, it's tangible, and because of that, we have a moral and legal duty to act. This is true that this was true even under the Trump administration when there was a massive erosion of immigrant rights. Lawyers for Civil Rights fought to challenge President Trump's family separation policies, the administration's public charge rule, and we worked to ensure that there was no termination of TPS, which is a humanitarian protection for many immigrants, but in particular at that time for Salvadorian, Honduran, and Haitian immigrants. This fight continues to this day, as you just heard, and I'm sure you might have heard, about our work with the nearly 50 migrants who were fraudulently induced and transported from San Antonio, Texas, to Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts. Shortly after that occurring, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis took credit for the scheme. The governor's scheme was sickeningly inhuman and inhumane. Before arriving to San Antonio, many of the migrants had already endured perilous and long journeys to reach the United States. Not only had they trekked thousands of miles in search of a better life, but along the way, many experienced cruelty, exploitation, and violence. One of our clients had reported being kidnapped and tortured in Mexico by cartel members. Horrifically, his assailants had pulled his teeth out with pliers before throwing him out on the streets and leaving him for dead. This is just one of the stories that many of our clients shared. Our clients' journey upon arrival to the United States improved little. They bounced around various churches and shelters before arriving at the Migrant Resource Center in San Antonio, where they were only able to secure bed for a few nights. This allowed the perpetrators of the scheme to exploit our clients' vulnerability. They recruited our clients for the privately chartered flights with false promises of jobs, housing, and immigration assistance upon arrival. Yet, as many of you already know, that was never actually true. None of that had been planned. They were abandoned on Martha's Vineyard, isolated island, obviously, that had very few transportation out of it, without any of those things being secured. Alone on an unfamiliar island, the migrants quickly realized that they had been duped and panic set in. The whole point was to single out our clients based on their race, their national origin, and immigration status to send a political message. It is our view that our clients were illegally stripped of their rights and used as political pawns. That's why we filed a landmark federal class action lawsuit, the first of its kind in this country, to protect our clients and to ensure that other vulnerable migrants are not subjected to the same inhumane treatment. Our clients' narratives are not foreign to me. A little background on me. I am the daughter of 2 Mexican immigrants. I grew up in a very vibrant immigrant community in Los Angeles, California, a community that had for decades been under-resourced and over-policed. And growing up, it was very common for me to hear from family members, friends, or other community members share agonizing stories of them fleeing violence from their own home countries, their journey crossing the desert or the river, and then sometimes the abuse that they would confront at the hands of Border Patrol sometimes. So these experiences were then compounded by the realities that they had to face in the United States, such as navigating a new social apparatus and understanding the nuances of a culturally different landscape. Beyond those challenges, there still existed other horrors. I heard of families who were being separated, right? I would hear of children who would come home to empty homes because their family members had been detained by immigration officials. Fortunately, throughout whatever traumatic experience my community was going through, they were able to respond with love. Similar to the Martha's Vineyard community, people in my community were able to come together and provide support and collectively heal from those traumas. Still, at the end of the day, it did not change the fact that many of my community members lived in fear, particularly immigrants. So why do I share that with you today? Well, as hate crimes increase across the nation and xenophobic rhetoric persists, It is a reminder that the struggle for human rights and human dignity requires participation from each and every one of us. It's a call to action. Yes, we've come very far, but we still have a long way to go, And global migration is a multi-layered issue. It can't be overlooked and it can't be deterred. People don't willingly leave their country and everything they know behind. People are forced to flee their beloved home countries due to the toxic mix of violence, whether that be the alarming rise in femicide and organized crime, or the erosion of democratic practices, or even now more so the impending climate crisis. We must accept and understand these conditions to better understand those in our community and to better serve them. Moreover, the role of New Bedford's Human Relations Commission and its mechanisms have never been so critical. The commission provides communities with a space where these very important issues can be discussed, where concerns can be raised, and ultimately where change can result. It plays a key role in winning hearts and minds. This is particularly important where human rights issues such as immigration have become very polarized, where immigrants, particularly Black and immigrants of color, are vilified and often used as scapegoats to incite political fervor, like my clients. So let us remember that behind every headline, whether it reads something about a migrant caravan or a crisis at the border, that behind that headline there is a family, there is a mother, there is a father, an innocent child, and a human being, right? With a very painful story that oftentimes gets left untold. So I ask us all to let us open our hearts to learning that story and to moving forward together. To that end, and in honor of International Human Rights Day and International Migrants Day that's coming up this upcoming Sunday, I would like to echo today's theme. May we continue to humanize people who have been othered and marginalized. And just like my community growing up and the Martha's Vineyard community with my clients, to ensure that we continue to build a more equitable society now and for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam, and thank you for your work. Freedom has never been free, and we must continue. We must continue this. So now we will, in that vein, we will move on to the awards section of the program with our first PowerPoint presentation on our first awardee.
Mercy Meals was founded in 2010 on Purchase Street by members and pastors of Pilgrim United Church of Christ. I remember when Reverend Russ Chamberlain came to the Department of Community Services informing us of this new program that was about to begin. The mission was started to address food insecurity and other needs among low-income and homeless people in the area by providing a breakfast meal site to supplement other community lunch and dinner meal sites. Guests are treated with dignity and respect in a healthy atmosphere that promotes networks of friendships, strong community, and spiritual, mental, and physical health. It didn't take long before Mercy Meals became so much more. Free breakfast is provided Monday through Saturday each week with the help of 15 rotating volunteers serving 50 to 60 community members per day. The Soul Foot Clinic happens each Thursday morning, providing foot evaluations, foot care, height, weight assessments, and vital sign checks. Shoes are also offered along with clothing. It is our pleasure to give the Human Rights Award to Mercy Meals and more.
I know everybody's looking at their program. Where is Dolores Joseph? Well, Dolores couldn't be here today, so I'm her stand-in. I'm Commissioner Sidney Murray, And with no further ado, I want to present the Human Rights Award to an organization, to Mercy Mills and More. Would you please, Mercy Mills, step up?
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do.
This trailblazer has been on the fast track. Justina is a lifelong New Bedford resident, doctor of physical therapy, and owner of Ocean Physical Therapy and Pelvic Health, a graduate from the University of Massachusetts Amherst with a BS in kinesiology and earned a Doctor of Physical Therapy degree from Simmons University. Justina is the founder and director of Buy Black NB, which is an online platform dedicated to highlighting, discovering, and promoting Black-owned businesses in South Coast, Massachusetts. Since its inception in June 2020, Buy Black NB has been connecting consumers with 200 local Black-owned businesses, hosted adult and youth vendor market events celebrating Black culture, curated all-occasion gift guides highlighting diverse, locally made goods, hosted a Her Story series amplifying the voices of Black women in business. Buy Black NB has fundraised for local organizations and connected business owners with opportunities as they arise, including original blog content and spotlight features. Buy Black NB is empowering collaboration and community building, inspiring economic empowerment, supporting increased access to quality care, encouraging community engagement. We proudly give the Human Rights Award for an individual to Justina Perry.
My name is Jeff Costa, and I'm a commissioner with the Human Rights Commission of New Bedford, and I am honored to invite Justina Perry to join me on stage and receive this award.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Jeff, and for the Human Relations Committee for the nomination and for this recognition. I also want to acknowledge the elders past and present, and to those who support this work, especially my family who's here today. And thank you to the Black business community for the privilege in representing you and to be able to stand by you and bring awareness to these issues. I was so moved to learn about this award and that I was receiving it, and it felt like validation for this advocacy and community organizing that we've been doing the past 2.5 years. Minority rights are human rights according to the international framework. And as Marcy mentioned, the pandemic has exposed so much of the discrimination and exacerbated inequities and brought new economic challenges that disproportionately affect Black and brown people. So Buy Black NB is created as a space of liberation, and the work that we do refuses white supremacy as the status quo and systemic racism as the status quo. And we are shining light on Black and brown people in our community who are existing and leading and thriving. So thank you for seeing this work. Thank you.
One of the things that impressed us most about this next award recipient is the sense of urgency that came across, and you could hear his voice in these emails that he sent to his teachers and administrators. The reason that the Human Rights Commission has added a student award is because we feel the importance of encouraging kindness, civic duty, and humanitarianism in our young citizens. And Xavier Mojica is a fine example of that. Last but not least, the Human Rights Commission extends the Human Rights Student Award to Xavier Echevarria Mojica.
I am Commissioner Genesis Galan, and I would like to invite Xavier up to share a few words with you.
Good morning. My name is Zeiterion Performing Mojica. I am from Global Learning Charter Public School. I am a student there. I am in grade 9, and I have here today Mr. Fernandez and Mr. Ferreira. If you guys can please stand up. I also have both my parents here, which are Yaitza and Marcos. If you can also please stand up. Today I will be talking about how I used my voice for good. As a high school student at JLCPS Learning Charter Public School, I have learned so much this year, both in the classroom and in my school community. One thing I have learned is that I can use my voice for good. Even though my teachers have always told me that I could, this year I have done just that. Earlier this year, we were discussing hurricanes in one of my classes. At the time, I was worried about how the latest hurricane had caused so much damage in Puerto Rico and how it led to more suffering for the people who live there. My parents have families and friends who live in the island, and they have been checking with them to see if they were all right and safe. Luckily, they were, but so many were not. I asked my teacher, Mrs. Fernandez, what we could do to help. We brainstormed ideas and asked if we can collect items and like batteries and personal products to send to Puerto Rico. I asked if I could place a collection box in the main office. Mrs. Fernandez encouraged me to email Ms. Poyant about my suggestion. The next day, Ms. Poyant came to talk to me during lunch. I was really surprised because I didn't really think people checked their emails anymore. Ms. Poyant asked me how I felt about collecting money instead of products because it would be easier to send money and it would be a lot harder to send fruit cans and other things. We then talked about a school-wide fundraiser and how we can do 2 other kinds of fundraisers. The student council had a raffle to raise money for the fundraiser. Also, since it was Hispanic Heritage Month, there was a school-wide dress-down day. Students who donated $1 could wear a non-uniform shirt that reflected pride in their own cultures. The 2 fundraisers combined raised $370, which is a decent amount for our school community. I've learned a lot from this experience. I learned so many people, and I learned from people and how they feel the same way I do. And we want to help others who are in a bad situation. I learned that many people in our community have strong ties to Puerto Rico and have the same concerns that I do. Most importantly, I am now more likely to speak up when I see a problem or a situation that needs to be addressed. There is one thing I would like to add. Since using my voice, I have met more people in my school. Some students have been asking about me and how I was able to do it. Now I hope I can help others use their voice, and when there's a situation where people are suffering and want to do things, that we can help. This is the end of my speech, and I would like to thank everyone for listening, and have a good day.
So on behalf of the Human Rights Commission, we want to give you this award. I also want to invite Commissioner Costa up. He does have a check for you on behalf of Sangha Yoga Community Center. I also want to mention that the Human Rights Commission, each one of the members will be donating $25 towards your fundraiser. So that will be another $200 raised for you. And then for everyone else that's here today, we do have the box that he created. He painted it himself with the Puerto Rican flag on it. So feel free to make any donations. You can make a check out to Global Learning Charter School. And again, on behalf of the whole commission, estamos bien orgullosos de ti. Gracias.
Congratulations to all of you, and thank you for your great work. We have some other awards here. This is how our community is. Well, first of all, our keynote speaker, Marian Albert, we present this to you. We also have some citations here from Representative Cabral's office. Is there someone who wants to present these awards? And I believe the mayor has something for you too that will be forthcoming.
So as Marcy said, hello everybody, I'm Chris Hendricks, I'm state representative, the 11th Bristol District, which for those of you who don't know, it's most of the north end of New Bedford and the town of Acushnet. But come January, my district will just be in New Bedford, which is a very good thing for my office and our team. So we have, as Marcy said, we have some citations from the House of Representatives. These are framed citations on behalf of Ronald Mariano, the Speaker of the House, in Tony Cabral's office, as well as my office. I wasn't able to sign the framed ones, but I'm here to present them, so I think that's just as good. So our first acknowledgement here, and we also have Dina and Kate up here as well, and Mike from, who will also be presenting another citation from Congressman Keating's office. So our first citation is, can we have a representative of Mercy Meals and More coming up? I don't know if you want to.
Come this way. Quick note, Rep. Cabral apologizes for not being here in person. He had a long-standing family commitment, and they're about the only people that would outrank people in this building. So he apologizes, but you got me and you got Dina, and what we can't make up for in his eloquence, we can make up for in brevity.
What? Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay. It probably makes sense. While you're up here, I'll present this from Congressman Keating. That's a congressional citation, proudly presented to Mercy Meals and More. Recognition of the recipient of the 2022 Human Rights Award as recognized by the New Bedford Human Relations Commission for your kindness and compassion towards our most vulnerable neighbors. And it's signed by William R. Keating this 12th day of December, 2022. Congratulations.
We have a couple more here, and obviously we have, the Buy Black and Be, Justina Perry's organization and her effort that she's been working on for the last few years. We also have a citation from the House of Representatives and Speaker Mariano's and Tony Cabral in my office as well. So Justina, could you come up here and please?
Thank you.
And Justina, again, from Congressman Keating, Certificate of Special Congressional Recognition, probably presented to Justina Perry in recognition of recipient of the 2022 Human Rights Award as recognized by the New Bedford Human Relations Commission for founding Buy Black New Bedford to promote small Black-owned businesses, and it's signed this 12th day of December, 2022. Congratulations.
And last but not least, we have a citation also from the House of Representatives, from Tony Cabral's office, Speaker Mariano, an acknowledgement of Xavier's work in the hurricane in Puerto Rico and all the organizing he's been doing on behalf of that effort. So Javier, could you come up here?
And again, congratulations, Xavier. Proudly presented to Xavier Echeverria Mojica in recognition of recipient of the 2022 Human Rights Award as recognized by the New Bedford Human Relations Commission. You already knew that part. For your outstanding efforts to support hurricane victims in Puerto Rico, signed by Congressman Keating, this 12th day of December 2022. Congratulations. Thank you for your work.
And that's all we have. Just wanted to say thank you, everyone. You know, for all the efforts that, you know, all the things that get done on human rights, on justice. You know, that it takes people to galvanize the interest and the energy to do all those things. So please keep up the good work. Congratulations on all the work you have done, and thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here.
I just wanted to take a moment, only because I feel like I would be remiss if we didn't sort of acknowledge that it's the work of the people on the ground that make things possible in the State House and in the Capitol. Last week, the House and the Senate both passed the Respect for Marriage Act. Martin was talking about an effort locally that maybe isn't everything that people would want, and it's a work in progress. There are some things in that bill that, you know, maybe everyone didn't support, but it was so important to codify the marriage equality at the federal level so that people who are married here in Massachusetts, if they go and move to another state, that state has to recognize that marriage. So that's a fundamental right that the Congress did pass at this session. And, you know, with all the craziness and all the things we hear about down in D.C., I think it's important to celebrate when something like that happens. So thank you.
And thank all of you. That concludes our program today. And I just want to say a few thank yous before we leave here today. First of all, I want to thank the Zeiterion, and Rosemary was one of our past award recipients for this space. Also want to thank the Community Foundation, who provided the financial support so that we could give you this wonderful breakfast today. Also want to thank Giovanni Sequeira for his always present technical support.
And most of all, we want to thank all of you for coming and supporting and doing the work that you do every day. We applaud you. We look forward to working with you in this continuing work for human dignity and human rights. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Be blessed.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 in the morning, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. He asked all his therapists to help him undertake some of the house chores. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey.